Hello.
Hope you're all having a fabulous Tuesday morning. I'm also here.
Having some more people joining in. Thank you all for joining in once again. Okay, Michael has joined in as an attendee. You can see him now. Okay. Hello, Michael. You could just test your microphone and your video, and we should get started.
Testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2. Good morning.
Good, good, good. All right. We have 2 minutes to go, so I'd just like to request all of us to put on our videos, and then we should get started. This discussion is also live on the Startup Uganda YouTube page. I would like to welcome all our panelists as well as the attendees that have just joined in, and we're looking forward to a very insightful discussion. Just going to give 2 minutes for other people to join in, and we should get started at 10 a.m. sharp. Thank you all for joining in.
Did you run this morning, Michael?
Come again?
Did you run this morning?
No, I didn't. Probably today evening.
Okay.
Michael, how are you?
Good at you, Chief. How have you been?
I've been well.
Good, good.
No, you need to be a little louder again.
I need to be louder.
Yes,
Wow.
that loud.
Okay.
Then we'll
Okay.
hear you. Yeah, then we'll
So
hear you.
basically, the instruction.
That was a panel greeting to Michael.
We are talking, so I would be worried. Is that microphone that low?
Hi, Michael. Hope you're good.
Okay, guys. It's exactly 10 a.m. by my watch. Thank you all for joining in. We have a couple of attendees and we have all our panelists here today. Welcome to this Kampala Innovation Week panel discussion hosted by Diwala in partnership with UNCDF and Startup Uganda. I'm Mutuzo Irene Esther and I'll be your moderator for today. And well, today we'll be talking about verification and blockchain technology. Now, many of us have heard about the term blockchain technology, and when we hear blockchain, it's often related to things like cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. But did you know that this revolutionary technology can be used in almost each and every sector? I'm speaking education, health, finance, agriculture, and so much more. Together with a team of experts I have here today, we're going to particularly be looking at using blockchain technology to revolutionize verification of data for the 21st century. And joining me on the panel, I have Thea Somerset Myron, the CEO of Diwala. I have Noah Balesamvu, the head of strategy, Crypto Savannah. I have Michael Newtegeka, Program Director, Refactory. Lucrezia Viteted, a D4D Hub Senior Expert with GIZ, and Joel Bamuise, the Programs Manager, Stanbic Business Incubator. Thank you once again for joining us. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of our discussion and this technology, I would like to invite each of the panelists to tell us more about the work they're doing in the tech space. And I would like to begin with Lucrezia. What is the work that you're doing?
Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. Well, many of you might already know some of my work with Laboremas and Refactory in the Ugandan tech space, but I recently joined GIZ for a new position. There, I'm working on 2 European Union funded projects that aim to drive digital transformation across the entire African continent. The first is called the AU-EU D4D Hub, so African Union, European Union Digital for Development Hub. And there we are supporting governments and public agencies across Africa to develop strategies and action plans, basically helping fill some of the regulatory gaps, especially in the new areas such as data protection, artificial intelligence, and also blockchain. The second one is called Innovation Dialogues Europe-Africa, IDEA, D4D Hub, and I'm particularly excited about that one because there we are supporting civil society to build their capacity so that they can be more involved in all these discussions around digital transformation, particularly on areas such as consumer protection and also digital human rights or human rights in the digital space.
Okay, awesome. It's great that we have you here because we are talking about data. So indeed, we need to talk about data protection. Michael, what is Refactory doing and why do you do what you're doing?
We do what we're doing because there's a need for what we're doing. So
what is that need?
Yeah, so really Refactory was a response to a gap in industry. And that specific response was around the need for talent that is industry appropriate and beyond just the qualifications. And so what we're trying to address is understand the gaps in industry, understand the needs that the industry have, and we're targeting people from all walks of life. And we believe that it is possible that even if you've done social sciences, or you haven't even been to university, but you have a passion for technology and specifically software engineering as a practice, we believe that through our processes, we have the capability and competence to help you realize that. And over the last 3 years, if I could say, we have had close to 350 people go through our training programs at Refactory, and yeah, the way we structured, probably at a later time I can talk about it. But the way we structured the program is really more from hands-on industry-driven engagement. And over the 3 years, close to 350 people that have been trained, we have a close to about 85% placement rate in industry. So people who have gone through our program have found employment in the first 6 months, about 85%. And that for me is the testimony that there was a need, we responded, and industry is appreciating. So that's what we do. Like
Wow,
I said, we do what we do because there's a need for what we do. Thank you.
That's amazing. To the audience, if any of you wants to get better at your software skills and may not have a tech background, Michael is the person to talk to there. What is Diwala doing?
Good morning, everyone. So Diwala is focused on one main problem, and that's the 1.8 billion people worldwide, that's currently living without the digital identity that is capable of proving their education, work, and financial history. And what this has created is that it's an extremely time-consuming and inflexible and costly verification process for investors, banks, employers, recruiters, and government bodies. We know that like over the past 2 years, research share that it can take up to 3 to 12 months to verify a certificate or a credential. You're paying an average $15 and, you know, have like an extreme amount of administration hours. So the main thing we're trying to solve with that is that we've created a digital platform to make it easy to both issue a digital proof of data. So that can be a credential, a certificate of education, or a license. And that it's also easy to verify these credentials. And we do enable this both for if you're an individual or a business. So the main thing we do is that we enable that it's easy for institutions to issue secure and verifiable digital proof of any kind of information more time efficiently. And we make it easy for people and businesses to also request and access verified information about themselves that they can share. And then for any organization that's looking to verify these data, you can request and verify this secure information just by a QR code or a link that's taking you to the Dwala platform. So the main problem we're aiming to solve a part of this is that it's easy to issue, you know, credentials in the digital space.
Wow. So there will be a time where we won't have to make a lot of lines to get our credentials, and it's quite near. Joel, I know that there are a lot of entrepreneurs listening in today. How is the Stanbic Business Incubator supporting the entrepreneurship ecosystem?
Thank you so much, Irene, and good morning, Uganda and the startup ecosystem indeed. Well, the Stanbic Business Incubator is about SMEs, and SME growth is our mandate. And when I talk about the bigger family, we say at Stanbic that Uganda is our home and we drive our growth. The aim of what we are doing is to see how do we support SMEs to digitize, and can we create a platform for them to become better and optimize their processes using technology, and also giving them a chance to learn both the what I said, the theoretical part that I may not have learned in school, or those that have not gone to Michael's let me call it school and industry. How else can SMEs utilize the technology that is available, and subsidizing it where possible to make it sure that they optimize their processes, thereby giving them a chance to increase their revenue and ultimately create better jobs using technology. And thus far, of course, we have been in operation since 2018, and we have churned out and trained a number of SMEs that have gone through our portfolio. And over time, we identify some of the key needs that they have in the digital space and work out ways with various partners on how we can support them in solving those particular needs. So we will discuss, of course, way deeper in the course of this session on what exactly we are doing and how we are doing it.
Okay. Noah is someone that has been in the blockchain space for a while in Uganda. Tell us about Crypto Savannah and the work that you're doing.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you to Dwala for this awesome session, and thank you for the Kampala Innovation Week. So Crypto Savannah is a digital transformation company, and we use blockchain to solve problems in 4 main areas. One is in digital identity and KYC. The second is in finance, or what we call decentralized finance, or the new age of finance. The third area is in traceability and being able to trace goods from source to market or source to table, depending on the industry. And then
we seem to have lost Noah. Okay, probably we'll get back to Noah in a bit, and he will tell us more about Crypto Savannah. At this juncture, I just want each of the panelists to... Hello, Noah?
Sorry about that. I lost power.
Yeah.
Now back.
Okay, tell us about Crypto Savannah.
Yes. So saying Crypto Savannah uses blockchain in 4 main areas. One in digital identity and KYC. basically being able to facilitate digital identities on the blockchain, which are highly secure and highly available. The second area in which we use blockchain is in finance, or what we call decentralized finance, basically offering services in lending, in investments, and also the traditional crypto businesses. The third area is in traceability, where we leverage blockchain in bringing supply chains or value chains under one sort of platform of truth, where different players in different stages of the value chain can have a single view of truth across the entire value chain. And then finally, in what we call digital assets. This is a new and emerging space where we're going to see physical and digital representation of physical assets, whether it is things like real estate. We are building products that allow for fractional investment in real estate. So if you have, let's say, an apartment complex, instead of having all the money at once, you're able to democratize access to that investment opportunity, give people an opportunity to save and invest in, like, say, a square meter of a shopping mall, and you get hundreds and thousands of people to invest in real estate. It can unlock a lot of liquidity in the market, but also make it that much easier and more cost effective to invest in the real estate industry. So those are some of the things that we are doing, leveraging blockchain. We have products out in the market. We have a product like walimi.com. This is an agri-produce product where we link farmers to marketplaces. So we have a marketplace, which is Walimi, and then you're able to trace the produce on that marketplace right to the farm. When we have other products like Binusu, which initially started out in about 4 years ago as a crypto exchange, but now is also unlocking a lot of financial inclusion products for ordinary people to access the benefits of the crypto market. That amongst other things that we are doing.
All right, thank you very much. And as I started in the beginning, you can clearly see from what Noah is saying that blockchain can be applied to so many sectors. But I just want to get back to our discussion around verification. And I want each of the panelists in 1 minute to share with us about those challenges they are faced when it comes to verification of data. I do know some of us run businesses, some of us are at an individual level. In 1 minute, what are some of those challenges you have come across when it comes to verification of data? Lucrezia.
Thank you. So as part of Laboremas, we worked on a project where we are doing the integration between the financial sector and the national ID database hosted at NERA. And obviously that project was a response to some of the challenges that the banks and the financial sector were facing in terms of verifying KYC. Now, just to repeat again what you said, because digital ID is such a building block, for everything in digital transformation, because if you are able to verify with a certain level of trust that the person holding the phone or the person using a computer program is actually that person that they are saying they are, that unlocks so many possibilities in terms of in so many different sectors, such as e-governance, e-health, e-commerce, and finance, of course. Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, though your video is frozen, but that's okay. Okay.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. All right, as we wait for Lucrezia to get back, I just want to add on from the point that Lucrezia was talking about, digital IDs. What is the challenge around digital IDs when it comes to verification?
So you want to speak about my personal experience, right?
Personal, your work with Diwala, please share.
I think one important thing when you think about identity, we call like the way digital identity has been created in Norway. like the Nordic trust around digital identity. And what that enables is that government has created like a way for you to basically use one way to log into all systems. That might be tax, it might be health systems, everything. And as a part of COVID-19, when I was locked here in Uganda, my SIM card got deactivated. And then, you know, you need a verification code using this ID every time you want to log into something. And as a part of that, I was actually locked out of every governmental system in Norway, you know? So me being here in Uganda for the past 2 years during the pandemic, I couldn't do any of the things, you know, you had tax things coming in, banking, all these things. So I had to get a new like code, like we get this code ID to get like a password. And I had my dad to push that in Norway every time I needed to access it, which you could naturally think was quite challenging. So, you know, one of the challenges around identity, which Sukarsha has mentioned, is that it's essential. And the problem is that if we make that of control of one centralized system, we really challenge people's access if they don't have the opportunity to be connected to that body, or even if there's a security hazard for them to be of that body. So that's why digital identity using blockchain, self-sovereign identity, gives you more autonomy to have control of that identity yourself, because it is independent of government and of also, you know, any kind of centralized technology company. And I think that's quite important.
Okay, Thea, we'll get back later and you break down those technical terms for us. Joel, through the work that you're doing with businesses and SMEs, what challenges have been there when it comes to verification of data?
I would like to use rather my personal experience first.
Please go ahead.
Before I talk about the businesses. And just to say that a couple of years ago when I was joining a big corporation like Stanbic Bank or the Stanbic Business Incubator, I was, as a new entrant or new employee to the organization, I had to first go to Interpol, get a clearance letter, but I also had to go back 10 or so years ago, back to my high school to get verification of my documentations for my high school. Then I had to go to my university to re-verify what they verified when I was graduating. And even after submitting all the so-called verified documents to the organization had to hire another firm to re-verify what all these other entities where I've come from are also verified. And that is a big challenge. Why must we go through a process of verification over and over, but I have to go back to UNEB, the Uganda National Examination Board, to verify a certificate that they gave me a couple of years ago, because they are no longer sure whether it's the right certificate or not the right certificate. And even thereafter, that's another expense, which is a certain firm. Maybe I go to NOAA as an organization and ask him to do another due diligence about the same, which is the same thing like NOAA said is happening when it comes to KYC. How do you verify that this company is legally registered in Uganda, and how authentic are the books of accounts that they are presenting to you, or the audited books of accounts? All these are challenges in the market. And maybe also picking up from what Tia just said, there is a potential, there is now a platform that maybe by one click this could be solved, and that is a bit of the potential in the blockchain market. But the challenges surrounding verify, re-verify, and then re-verify all the sorts of documents that we have. And those are the challenges that ourselves as entrepreneurs individually, or employees, employers, and the entire SME sector is facing on a daily basis.
Yeah, very, very true. Michael, what's been your experience?
How much time do you have?
1 minute.
Yeah, it's a life story, if I could put it that way. That even when you think you have the right documentation, you still have systems not able to confirm that it is you. And I'll give an example. I don't know what happened with marriage when they were enrolling me for the national ID. and I was trying to process the death certificate of my dad, and I go to NIRA. And for some reason, when I try to use the thumbprint, it doesn't pick that biometric feature properly. And this guy looks at me and says, maybe this is not your national ID. And I'm like, oh, wow.
Wow.
This is your ID. You gave it to me as an authority, but you don't have any proof. Well, you doubt the fact that this may not be my ID. Everything else is perfect. And it's just that. And I did explain to them, I said, I told the guy who was enrolling me that you've not done a good job. And for that, I am paying a sin. And here it is, Irene. I asked them, what would it take for me to correct this? He says, well, you probably have to live with this. He had no answer for me. So
Wow.
that and very many other examples that I can share. But the challenge you have is that when you can't easily be identified, when there is no single source of reference, it becomes extremely difficult in very many cases, because then I have to keep on reintroducing myself and resubmitting a lot of documentation. The same challenge I have in medical facilities, where I am a new entity all the time. I'm interfacing with the hospital, and even when it's the same hospital, you're not the same. Even when they have your record, like who are you? And I'm like, wait a minute, this is who I am. I'm your patient. I've been working with you. So I can go on and on. It's that's really the big challenge. That even in spaces where you're a regular, there's no single source identity. Be it in hospitals, be it in social places, even our own schools. I think I used to challenge one of the schools I had children, and I would say, but we have two children in this school. Are they attached to us as parents, or they are seen as independent entities? And the school looked at me and said, well, for now they are all independent. But I said, but where's the link between me and these children? Doesn't exist. Well, I stopped.
Sure.
I mean, it is
well, Michael, you're not the only one that first faces the fingerprint challenge. All the times I've had to register a new SIM card, I've literally taken an hour trying to get that. Yes, so you're not the only one. Noah, what has been your experience?
So everyone has given their personal experience. Maybe I can give one of the things that we are trying to solve as where the challenges are. Now, let's start off from what you've just mentioned. Replacing a SIM card. It's a mess. It has been a mess, and we're trying to solve it. But imagine for a moment that the SIM card in Uganda is very important. And I don't think maybe we fully understand. It's the SIM card, through the SIM card where you can access voice, communicating with family and friends and business. And it's through the SIM card where you can access mobile money, which is arguably the biggest financial access tool in Uganda. Now imagine you can't get access to a SIM card when you initially had one. Or imagine a whole people group who can't get access to a SIM card. And that's what happened a couple of years ago when the refugees couldn't access SIM cards because of fraud in identity. So, someone fakes an identity, commits a crime, and when you dig deeper into that, you find that the way these identities are issued is completely arbitrary, and it's very insecure. And so not only insecure for they themselves, because they're running for their plight is they're coming here for safety. And yet that safety is being jeopardized by a system that does not uniquely identify them or secure that identity. And so for a long time, and we all, I'm sure, around in Uganda, when we had that SIM card registration thing where you're attaching an identity to the SIM card, and and it was such a mess. And so that becomes the reality. Such a powerful tool like mobile money is hinged on an identity that is so flimsy, so fragile. And so that's one of the challenges that we see, because if you look at SIM fraud and if you look at the police reports, annual crime report, you find that one of the leading areas of crime is mobile money fraud. And mobile money, any fraud on mobile money starts with identity fraud.
Yeah.
And so, you can imagine one day you wake up and you just have, you see a pin pop up on your phone and someone has stolen your money, all because your identity was not secure. And so that is yet another aspect of identity that maybe doesn't come out strongly. There is the inconvenience of having multiple data silos, but then there is the insecurity that comes from having multiple data silos. That now, bad actors take the arbitration between data centers. They exploit that to commit identity fraud. And identity fraud in this day and age in 2021, if I have your identity, I have everything you own. I have the bank accounts and I have, and so identity is very, very important. And so the point I wanted to bring across, it's not just an inconvenience. It's a major crime, a major threat. In many cases, it has to do with national security and terrorism, all centered around the identity. And so it's not something we can take lightly anymore.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. And from all the panelists, we have clearly seen the big need in having to digitize all the different verification systems we have. We have seen the big need in each and every Ugandan having a digital identity. Now, we just want to get back to the technology side of things. Having seen these challenges around verification, how can blockchain be, I could say, a problem solver of this? Now, to break this term for us, we have Thea, who is a blockchain expert. Thea, in very simple language, I emphasize simple, non-technical language, explain what blockchain technology is and the value it provides.
So in terms of time, I'm just going to focus on identity and self-sovereign identity, which is basically what kind of identity you can get in terms of blockchain. We call that self-sovereign identity. You don't really need to know about that term, but what you need to know is that it basically describes a digital movement that's trying to focus on how an individual should be able to own and control their own identity without having another intervening administrative authority having control of that information. Basically, that's saying that, like, non-dependent of who, like, you have ownership of yourself. And what it really allows is that people can interact in the digital world. They can be included in the digital economy and any kind of digital service with the same freedom of capacity for trust as they do in the offline world, because this is a huge blocker today in terms of people actually accessing services like we discussed. So as a part of bringing that same, it kind of brings the same kind of freedom and personal autonomy that you have in a more safe and trustworthy way in terms of identity. And what it really does is that enables you to both authenticate yourself, but it also allows you to kind of get different kind of information signed into your identity. So you can choose that also. Currently today, you don't really control what people say about you or what people say about your organization. But here is a way you can actually sign information into an identity that you have ownership of yourself. And I think the one key thing as a part of that is that people maybe say things that's not right, and what we really see also by blockchain is that because you kind of can build what we say a trust tree, is that because you have one thing you own in yourself, you can build these layers on top of it. It can be identification from NERA. It can be a job reference from Standic. It can be a program from Refactory. It can be that you did a conference with NOAA on policy, and all this information is essential that you know about yourself. But more importantly, that people can trust that you have done that. And what it also does, is that it enables that you can share that easily without asking another authority to share that information.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting concept. I already see the picture in my head 20 years down the road. Joel, I do know that the Standing Business Incubator is collaborating with Diwala to improve the verification of data for businesses. Kindly shed more light on that work that you're doing and how you hope it will improve the challenges you talked about when it comes to verification for businesses.
Thank you. I'm very fast comment. Noah, Tia, and Michael. Maybe I'm the general IT expert here, and not the blockchain expert. For purposes of the audience, I'm actually a lawyer by profession who is doing business. So it's interesting to look at it in my perspective of what can we do and how can we use blockchain. Normally, in fact, just a while ago, a couple of days ago, I was in a discussion with some colleagues here locally in Uganda, discussing blockchain, cryptocurrency, and all the like. And I noticed that the general, there's this perspective or hidden perspective of people just fearing the technology. But the fear is more because we do not understand. And so the question I was posing to each of them was, is it rather that we fear it or embrace it by understanding what it can do? Because we simply look at it as a very big elephant in the room, and yet there can be very small things that we can do that help us leverage on the importance of the technology. And some of those simple things include as basic as certificates, issuing out digital verified certificates. That is what we are doing at the Islamic Business Incubator in a partnership with Diwala. First, we migrated. In our portfolio, we already have. Imagine we have issued out over 1,000 paper certificates in the past, 2018 and the like. And why should we be undertaking that cost? These can easily be not only destroyed very easily, but once they are gone, and people used to local offices to relook at the information. Can you verify that I actually graduated? I need to give the certificate somewhere. And these are paper certificates, which some of them have even 3 years down the road, they are still in our stores, parked there because people are not fully aware whether they even certified or valid or not. Now that can change or has changed because of our partnership with Duala. And now issuing out digital verifiable certificates, which are just, in fact, the first basic thing to say that it is a certificate, even before we complicate it with how it is being based on the blockchain technology. And because of that, I had Noah mention about the KYC. The future is also in that we are packing as much information as we can in the certificates, that now people can easily just, using a QR code, scan the certificate, and have all my company details, what I studied, when I studied it, and also further details or linkages to any other details about my company. That then eases the possibility of investment and very many other aspects that pertain knowing your customer and the progress of an SME in the digital space.
Okay, thank you very much, Public. Just to reiterate for the audience, Joel's network was a bit shaky. The partnership the Stanbic Business Incubator has with Diwala is that through using the Diwala platform, the business incubator is able to issue digitally verifiable credentials to the different businesses that go through the training that the incubator provides. And when you look at the value, it's not all about the technology inside behind the certificates, but it's more around the value of receiving these credentials digitally and them being verifiable digitally. Michael, one of the things Joel talked about was education and sensitization. What do you think, you actors like yourself in this education space need to do to incorporate the teaching of this technology? And also, is there really hunger for this information among the people in the tech talent?
Hunger for information around blockchain.
Yeah.
I think, yes, it is. The missing link is, to an extent, what I would call the appropriate use cases. Appropriate use cases in a way that makes business sense for people to invest time and resources. And so when you begin to hear stories like what Noah did share about what they're doing with SIM card verification and SIM card registration, you nail it. You're like, this is it. I never understood why I had to go to Airtel to register. I had to go to MTN to register. I had to go to the different companies. And I'm like, why can't UCC have a single source registration that I can walk into MTN and register all my SIM cards, and I don't have to go to Airtel? So those use cases are very critical, and they're partners. That's number one. Number two is that we also need to invest resources in educating those that are decision makers, those that are in positions of authority. Because unless we're able to activate demand, it becomes very difficult. So you have a Joel who is an advocate now for the technology. He may not speak the exact language, but he has seen the real value. And so you need multiple Joels in the ecosystem that understand what this is all about. And when you have more of the Joels, then they begin to create that demand, and then that demand creates a supply requirement. The challenge we probably are struggling with is that many of us are not investing enough resources on the demand activation. And I guess we need to spend more time in that area. Once demand is there, once there is a hunger from 100 CEOs, supply falls in place. And so that is something that I would really want also to think through in terms of structure, in terms of how we can work. So it has to be coordinated. The different pieces need to fall in place for us to have it sustained. Is there opportunity? Absolutely, lots of opportunity, and different use cases that require what we're doing. And yeah, I guess I hope that makes sense, Iris.
Definitely. Just to pick up from something you said that is very pertinent, investment. Lucrezia, if you are given the opportunity to invest in the ICT sector of Uganda, what are those, I could say, could be 2, could be 3 things that you'd focus on that would help us move this technology forward, that would help us move the adoption of this technology, not only in the startup ecosystem, but in governance and everywhere? What would you look at and why?
Thank you, and apologies, my network failed earlier on, so I sort of disappeared, but I'm back. All right, so what I was actually going to say from that experience, from that project, is that what we realized is that when NIRA wanted, or the central bank wanted to give the banks access to certain information, but when NIRA set off on that path, they quickly realized that the current data protection and privacy framework did not allow it. So I think one of the areas that is very, very key to invest in, maybe not like so much money, but a lot in terms of, advocacy and capacity building and development of policies and regulatory frameworks, is in terms of filling those gaps. How can we have an architecture, a technical architecture for digital ID verification that is able to function within the data protection and privacy laws and frameworks, upholding those standards at the same time. But in terms of investment, of course, also, like I mentioned before, digital ID is like the rails on which so many other services can run. So clearly, that is very key to invest in that space. But it's also very complex because you are talking about legal issues, you're talking about technical issues, you're talking about, it's a huge complexity. And then you have the sector-specific areas as well for each sector: e-governments, e-health, e-commerce, financial services, education, But I think I'll because of course, my on
Lucrezia, we seem to be losing you once again. Okay, We'll definitely come back to Lucrezia. Apologies for the internet issues. Noah, just to touch upon and add on to what Lucrezia said about policies and governance. As someone that has been part of drawing up these policies as regards to the adoption of blockchain technology, what would you say are the frameworks that we currently have that currently support this adoption, and what has changed from the time you started out to date? What would you say has changed in terms of policy, in terms of people being open to adopt this technology?
Okay, so a good principle, especially when drafting policy, is to make it technology agnostic. The minute we start writing policies or laws or regulations with technology, bias, or technology protections, it becomes outdated pretty quickly.
No, I'd just like you to just be a little louder, please.
Okay.
Awesome, we can hear you now.
So I was saying it's important for us to understand, to look at policies as technology agnostic, so that it is responsive as technologies change. We look at use case, not the technology itself. And so our advocacy and in the different spaces that we advise, we are working hand in hand with government to ensure that the policies that are passed are not future-proof, but future-ready. Okay, we have laws like the Digital Signatures Act, the Electronic Signatures Act, the Electronic Transactions Act. These ones were a good step forward. However, you'll find that because they have certain technology, terminology or certain technologies in mind when the law was drafted, they are quickly becoming obsolete. Actually, you could argue that some clauses within those are obsolete now with the advent of things like blockchain. And so what we're trying to do is that we're trying to see how do we bring on the technology? How do we allow the technology to demonstrate its value without necessarily getting entangled with different laws and regulations? So currently, Uganda has the 4IR strategy that is being presented to the executive, and that 4IR strategy lays the groundwork for the use of these 4IR technologies, of which blockchain is one, in different aspects, including identity. Of course, we have laws like the Data Protection Act and its subsequent regulations. There are still conversations on whether the technology can facilitate all the principles of the Data Protection Act in the technology itself. And there's no silver bullet for anything. The technology does many things well, but there are certain areas where, of course, we have to define what it means. Something as simple as what is deletion. When you say the right to be forgotten, you want your data to be deleted. But what is deleted? If I delete something on a computer, anyone who's done forensics, of which I'm a cybersecurity expert and I know, it's not truly gone. You just have the mental comfort that someone has pressed delete. But if some advanced security tools are used, that data can be retrieved. And so another form of deletion in my world, which is one of the arguments I make in different fora, is that if you encrypt your personal data and your primary key is destroyed, that data cannot be accessed. So is that as good as deletion? Are you fulfilling the right to be forgotten that the law requires? And these are all things that blockchain technology brings into place. So in place right now in Uganda, we have these laws that we are riding on, and many of them are in the revision stage. So they're going to be revised to address the present realities, especially post-COVID, where now majority of our identity interactions are now online. I would argue even more than 80% of our identity interactions are now online. You log into your Google, log into Zoom, you log in to check on your NSSF, you need to log in to check on your URL. All these are identity centers, which for now are not talking to each other. And so we want to correct that. And then we also have in the pipeline, we have a national blockchain strategy that's being worked on by the Ministry of ICT. And that one is going to now bring out it's a strategy. It's not necessarily a policy that we should use blockchain here or there, but rather the strategy brings out the benefits of the technology and how it can be used in different fields, whether it is identity, whether it's in supply chain, whether it's in finance, or we're just bringing that use case to the surface. And so, yeah, from a policy perspective, we aim to remain technology agnostic. However, recognizing the benefits that these
Okay, thank you very much. And the people that are in the tech space must be happy to hear that the frameworks, the vision, where we're going, the strategies are actually going to support the adoption of this technology. Now, before we take on some questions, I would just like to invite Lucrezia once again to she's still telling us about what she would invest in to move this technology forward. Lucrezia?
Very sorry to drop off again. I think I have a lot of bad luck today when it comes to the internet connection. I think my point was already made by Michael, that I think the key area to invest in is skills and education, because however much we work on policies and technologies, it is only if we have people at all different layers of society that actually understand this technology and understand that are comfortable in the digital space, it is only then that we will actually use it. So investment would be, everything in digital skills, everything from, the farmer and the rural population and the refugees, all the way up to the people, the members of parliament, the decision makers, the officials, the top officials in banks, just building their skills in the digital space and inclusive digital transformation. I think that would be my other key point. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we're now going to go into our Q&A section. I can see we have a question here. I think Noah would be the best person to answer it. When do we expect to see a fully digitized and decentralized system adopted by our economy? And what are some of the ways or avenues to tap into this field? Noah.
Okay, I know some people think I'm a prophet, but I will try and keep it objective. It is definitely going to happen. We are going to start seeing fully digitized and decentralized systems. What's going to be the main driver is friction. Friction, because like I mentioned already, many systems are already going online. Like right now, I would argue that maybe 80–90% of our lives compared to pre-COVID are already digitized in one shape or form. You can buy your groceries online, you can pay your taxes online, you can renew your permits online, you can apply for a passport online. These are things that, just 2 or 3 years ago were a myth. But these are still separate systems. These are still separate identity centers. And so the friction in getting services to respond to the speed of innovation is going to drive that harmony. It's going to drive that magic. So we're going to see an emergence of rails. I know Lucrezia mentioned rails, and that facilitate speedy identity verifications. We're doing the same thing in the telecom space. We are also working together, interestingly, with Stanbic Bank and our business registry. There's done a URSB, Registration Services Bureau. And interestingly, we did a study and we discovered that by enabling, like the statistics then, we did a study about a year and a half ago, and the statistics actually 2 years ago, and it was 60% of loan applications from businesses were rejected because of lack of clear KYC. Okay, 60%, meaning that you apply for a loan, and when they go to URSB, your data is not updated. Now, imagine if you're able to create a platform between the bank and the URSB to have updated KYC. You can increase the turnover. You can have a 60% increase in loan application speed. Actually, even if it's just the speed of loan applications is increased, and the study even ended up saying that it could even lead to a reduction in the cost of getting credit for SMEs, just by clarifying and streamlining. So imagine you can, just by making sure that there are no multiple silos, and all that waste can lead to lower costs of credit. That is very powerful, a very powerful thing that a technology like blockchain can unlock. So yes, it's going to be driven largely by people are going to see that friction and say, no, something has to be done better. And then we're going to see the rise of decentralized systems. And these decentralized systems are going to be starting in the financial sector because that's where we feel the pinch the most. And then now into what I call fundamental sectors, like now identity, when it comes to verifying your identity, because we know that the normal the key denominator for identity in Uganda is NIRA. Now what you're going to see is NIRA is going to start facilitating all these attestations, identity attestations across multiple sectors. And that will work towards a scenario like in Norway, as Thea had mentioned, or what happens in Estonia, where your one ID gives you access to everything, which interestingly is the desire of the law, the ROPA, the Regulation of Persons Act in Uganda of 2016. Mm-hmm. That's its desire. If you read that law, the heart of the law is to allow the national ID or the NIM to be your primary access to all government services. So now the technology is slowly going to get there. I foresee maybe in the next 5 years, we'll start seeing the emergence of these decentralized systems as we are starting to see government embracing blockchain very rapidly.
Okay, so we should say that in the next 5 years, being optimistic, we will get there. With actors like us, I believe we definitely can push this. There's an identity question for Thea. If one's identity isn't verified by a centralized system or authority, how do we filter out duplicates or fraudulent identities? Thea.
Thank you. Excellent question. So, what blockchain does is that basically when any institution issue information through the platform, it uses a cryptographic key to make sure it's secure. And what basically that does is that it locks in the information that's been issued. So if we say Irene Mutuzu, born at this date and in this town, when we send this information to the blockchain, every time you're looking to verify the information, you send the call to check that is this the exact information that's issued by the authority that issued this information? And that's the essential part, because you have transparency. And this is also why it's essential that you have control of that information, as I've mentioned, because what information is connected to you is essential and you want to have control of what that is. But the key part also in terms of identity theft here is making sure that there's also an opportunity for government bodies and different organizations to re-verify information that's about you. So we can build these trust layers, like I've mentioned, where you can have this collaboration between decentralized systems and centralized systems working together autonomously and calling information, and every time something is out of key, as you can say in music, you will make sure it will be red marked. And that way you can at least get people sooner in terms of if they're doing these activities.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very, very much. We just have a few minutes to go, and I just want to take the last few minutes. Noah's already given us sort of his picture of where he sees this going in the next 5, 10, hopefully not 20 years, because 20 years is too long. But I just want to invite each of the panelists to just paint for us a picture. 10 years from now, where do you envision that this whole, the verification challenges we have talked about, the systems we have talked about, that technology and its applicability to verification, where do you think it will be and what will have changed? Let me begin with Joel. What is your picture, your mental picture?
Thank you, Irene, and thanks everyone. I think first is it will be at the end of the day one click. This is what everyone Noah here maybe has also been saying. We are looking for that one click which verifies everything, where you would expect that there is an integration between all the registration and governance bodies, URSP, PA, or the like, that all of them have one centralized, one decentralized network that is verifying this information. But then more importantly is that everything is changing, and everyone in the digital space knows that you have to keep on learning and unlearning. Now, we are now talking about doubts. Noah, I think, mentioned a bit about it, that the companies are now becoming decentralized autonomous organizations, and this is where the future is. We're not talking about that as entrepreneurs, how are we raising capital? How are we raising money? That it can no longer be just that you present your pitch deck, but you can raise money using the blockchain technology, and you create a decentralized autonomous organization. And this also then moves to copyright. So we are now talking about NFTs versus just basic power, have an untitled, have a logbook. All these things are turning digital. Now the bigger question, and to the SMEs out there and the entrepreneurs, is that how equipped are we for this revolution? Because it is happening, or it has already happened, and we just started making headway. And as we prepare for the future and we see how fast this is moving, are you equipped enough for what is happening? Are you evolving to accommodate the current which is being molded into the future? So that is for me also the key takeaway to all the things out there. Let us equip ourselves. The new way of doing business is on blockchain. It's just how it is, and better get on the ship. Thank you.
Okay, just to reiterate what Joel is saying, he envisions that there'll be a time when all the systems that are needed for businesses to move forward are integrated. There'll be a time when businesses will actually be transacted to the blockchain. And do we believe that it can happen? Yes, we believe that it can happen. Lucrezia, what is your mental picture of this?
Thank you. Well, I think, having worked very, very closely with government agencies, I still see that it will take some time until, we can talk about a complete decentralized world, because you have to keep in mind also the political, aspects in this, and also the aspects of control, which is extremely important for the governments. But I hope that we will get to a point where, there is maybe a coexistence of both as approaches, but moving towards, I think, and at least an important principle is that customers must be the owners and controllers of their own data. And that's also where we are going in terms of regulation and legislation. So it's about, the different innovations around, how can that be achieved? And like Thea said, and something like where you have layers, you have a layer after layer of different information that confirms your identity, which gives different, of course, degrees of trust, but that can be built up as a combination, of different sources of truth. Another two areas that I think will be very important, and I hope that can be there in my vision in future, is inclusiveness. So, making sure that also women and people in rural areas can benefit from this the same way that urban educated people can, but also refugees and people with disabilities. So basically keeping all those groups in mind. And then also businesses. For example, India has managed to create an ID system that has created its own industry because the private sector has been able to innovate on top of it and offer added value services. And it has become an industry with all sorts of tailored products to different sectors in terms of ID verification. And I hope that we can also create something that can allow the private sector to play a key role, because I think when it comes to innovation, the private sector is definitely ahead, and will make also sure that the services and products for the customers are actually of a better quality. So I think that's what it would be for me.
Thank you, Lucrezia. Michael, what do you envision in the next 10 years?
It's interesting. I want to carry the optimism that everybody else has, that technology will begin to deliver the real value of its worth, and that we will begin to enjoy the benefits that come with the technology, and not just blockchain, but also the other systems that work, that as a consumer, the return on investment, the efficiency gains will make me extremely happy that we have integrated technology to to that level. So 10 years from now, is technology working for me? Is technology adding value? Is technology giving me efficiency gains? 10 years for me is where every leader appreciates the real value that comes with the technology, or to an extent is able to adapt and adopt to the realities of their time. So it's hard work, but it is doable.
I love your optimism, Michael, and I do believe that we are definitely going to get there. Lastly, there.
I think what's key for me, Lucrecia mentioned, is about inclusivity. I understand that there's certain challenges and certain inequalities that's still going to be in place in 10 years from now. And what is important for me is that we've found a way to make sure that people have access to their information non-dependent on them being online or not. So we've found a way for these decentralized systems to also be valuable, even though you don't have access to internet or a mobile phone. So when you get access, so this can be more fluent, key component is that we've built more trust to information. We're living in information overload right now. One of the key components I think this can solve is that a person can move forward with a job opportunity because they have done X and they've proved Y. And that's the real benefit. It's going to a bank and not having a certain kind of perception or judgment minimizing your opportunity or not getting you that loan in the bank, right? It's also, if you are looking from an investment perspective, you can understand and aggregate all that data that we've now collected in a trustworthy and privacy concerning way that is not risking privacy, because we need all this information to understand how we're going to move forward and build policies that's right for this continent specifically. And I think that's essential in what we can do, that you can have this real way of creating policy, information, and system that flows automatically with governments and with private institutions. And, you know, that's key to that is collaboration. And this is why we're all here today and why I'm so grateful for all these panelists, because they come from a diversity of perspective. That's essential in terms of any technology adoption, because technology is only a tool, right? And the way we adapt to it is supposed to work and help us, you know, like Michael is saying. And I hope in 10 years from now, we understand that yes, it's there to help us, but it's there to do certain activities, and then also certain activities just for us to be people. And that's why I wish we were physical today, but I'm also happy to see your faces on the digital screen.
Thank you so much. Thank you to our dear panelists for the very insightful information you have given us. My dream 20 years from now or 10 years from now is that I can walk into my home district, which is Kisoro, and get out my gadget and get very good internet for free. That's my dream, because I believe it can enable so many other things. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you very much. And we'll definitely keep interacting. We'll definitely keep having many more of these webinars to understand this technology, what it provides, and the value it brings. Thank you once again, and have a lovely day from all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely day.